How you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great today.
Excellent.
I'm going to try to match your energy. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to give it a whirl.
Oh yeah, when we talked about coffee, I lied. I had 7. I had 7 cups of coffee, and this shirt actually has batteries, so it kind of keeps me powered.
A little shock therapy going on.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So no, I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about, and you have, again, probably one of the most interesting backgrounds and experiences. We talked at the speakers dinner and thoroughly enjoyed covering a lot of different topics. First of all, I have to ask, this isn't your first time in Texas, right?
This is not my first time in Texas, but it's been a long time since I've been in Austin. I need to come back. Right?
Yeah.
So I was too focused on work and too focused on getting stuff. I need to come back here and play because it looks like a fantastic place to hang out. So maybe next year, if I'm invited back, we'll build a shoulder period around the event.
Yeah, we definitely should. Now, I'm going to start off with a really serious question, okay?
I'm ready.
How many of you guys in the audience have ridden a mechanical bull? All right, who thinks that they're like the self-proclaimed champion of mechanical bulls? How many of you lasted for 30 seconds?
Wow.
Really? Have you ever ridden a mechanical bull?
I have not. Never.
You've never ridden a mechanical bull?
Yeah.
How many of you would love to see Scott and I battle it out on a mechanical bull? Oh, of course.
Yeah, go. I put money on him, right? It's what I would do.
I don't know. You like sailing and boating.
I do.
You probably have a strong grip.
Yeah, cranking on the winches. Yeah. Well, I haven't ridden a mechanical bull. I played college football, so I think I went head to head with a couple proper bulls in that time, and felt the impact of that.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? There are some interesting connections between, and we'll jump into pivot from mechanical bulls to sail GP. We'll just get out of the room. So you love to boat.
Yeah.
And you shared this sail GP thing with me, which explain to people so they kind of understand what is sail GP.
So Sail GP is a new sail racing circuit where they're racing these F50s. So they're multi-hull foils, and these boats are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll do 55 miles an hour on the water, and they're going so fast up on the foils that the water's vaporizing underneath it. So it's really kind of fantastic to see and observe that. And they're building it all on this media hype that was done by the Drive to Survive, the Formula One stuff. Right, so it's all based upon building a media audience. All the races are, they're all around the world. They're in a harbor, so it's a very spectator sport, very visually appealing. And these guys are rock star athletes, absolutely. Not like the good old days of America's Cup when it's like John Daly smoking a cigarette playing golf. It's not like that anymore. These are proper athletes. And I think, and we talked about it, I think there's a lot of analogies, and we can talk about Libya as we go.
Yeah.
When you're racing a sailboat, when you're out in clear air, there are just different dynamics and tactics that you use then when you're in the middle of the fleet, right? So you got to change your decision making based upon what environment you're in. And I think that is a great proxy for what people are going through right now with secular trends that we're seeing and the cyclical trends that we're seeing.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of ways, I can imagine. First of all, the sail GP thing. My wife will never let me do that, so I'm not going to do that. Yours probably won't let you do that either. No. But the correlations are absolutely there in the market today. What founders are facing, I'm sure many of them feel like they're on a boat that's going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe bodies are flying left, right, and center. Hopefully, metaphorically speaking, not literally speaking. But it's it's a challenging landscape. And so, what in your experience? What are some of the challenges that you have had to overcome? And you've gone in varying velocities, I would say, throughout your career, and in different types of races. What have been some of the hardest challenges you've had to face building companies and working with diverse teams and large teams? What are some of those challenges that you've had to face that have grown you?
Yeah, so I've had the great fortune to kind of build and grow, scale companies at different phases, kind of 0 to 1, 0 to 10, 0 to 100, and then the macro mill take private, and then IPO is just fantastic. And it really is around understanding how do you engage the team at different points of the journey and keep people embedded in that journey and keep them committed to the journey. And we use techniques called this envision future state, where we really kind of orient the team on where we can be in 3 years and what that means. And we really try to align on that. So whether you're, the whole executive team can fit in a car, you can be very kind of connected there, or you grow to a 2,500 person company with, 40 offices around the world, the principles are still largely the same. You need the right people in the boat with you. You need the right motivation, and you need to kind of understand how to navigate that, free air strategy versus being gassed in the middle of the crowd.
Yeah. Have there been some times where you, again, let's continue with the boat thing because it's fun. Have there been some times where you've looked around on the boat and said, we need to make a change? And how did you navigate that decision?
Those are hard decisions, right? Because sometimes you get to a point where the team and the people that got you here are not the people who are going to get you on the next phase of the race, right? Or the next phase of the growth. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but those are hard conversations to have, but those are really effective. So I think you need to find that right balance and keep kind of old guard and new guard working together, and just make sure the team is engaged and with you and kind of on that journey together.
Yeah, I love that. So I want you to talk to the founders here in the room. Okay, there's a lot of competition in your space. Okay, Drift. How many of you are users of Drift? Heard of Drift? Okay.
All right,
yeah, we got
you.
Hey, come on now. Even if you're not, just put up your hand. Okay.
Make me feel a little better.
Come on, you can lie. It's all right. Nobody's going to call you out. But you guys have kind of Drift has pioneered conversational dynamic of marketing, right?
Yep.
So talking to some of the founders here in the room, how can SaaS startups or any company for that matter break through the noise and stand out in a crowded market?
Yeah, great question. I think, again, you need to think about kind of where you are in that journey. So when Drift started, and we'll tell the story later about how I came to Drift. When Drift started, we were the category creator in conversational marketing. So we were out in that clear air, right? So there was nobody doing what we were doing. We got to evangelize and talk a lot about the market, about what we are doing, and get the momentum, get people to join us on that journey. And it was an amazing experience kind of early on. Now it's a very different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So to some degree, you get to tell the innovators by the arrows in their back, right? So while we created the category, that's not relevant anymore to the market that we're currently in. So if you're in a crowded market, I think you need to double down on what's going to be important to your customer. So we talk a lot less now about the fact that we created the category, and we really put it in terms of what our customers need, how they get value from us, right? So we've kind of switched the lens, kind of when you're in that open market where you're talking about yourself and what you're doing, to now talking about how we drive value for our clients, right? And that comes to us when these things called value drivers. How do you create more, how do you create more pipeline? How do you get better kind of engaged, targeted marketing? How do you drive prospect volume, all that stuff around how do you make money or save money, in particular in this dynamic that we're in right now.
You've been leading Drift now as a CEO for about a year.
Yep. Almost exactly a year.
Okay, awesome. Hey.
I got my Carta note that my first tranche of options have vested. Woo! I'm buying coffee later.
All right, steak dinner for everybody tonight. Where are we going?
Exactly. Probably bull riding, I guess.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Let's go to the rodeo. We'll go to the stockyards maybe next year in Fort Worth. Yeah, that's awesome. That's congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fun.
Thank you.
Your connection to Drift though came long before.
Yeah.
Share that story. I want to hear that story.
So I've had the fortunate, again, this idea of joining the early stage executive leadership team, management team, foundational team for 4 different startups. We had 6 great exits, but one particular was a company called Compete that we started in the early 2000s with a guy named David Cancel. So Cancel and I were kind of together in the earlier part of our careers. And I continued running Compete, sold it to WP, ran it inside of there for a number of years. And David went on and did some great things at Performable and HubSpot, but we always maintained that connection. So really early on in Drift's journey, before we had product market fit, before we had a domain name, I got involved as a strategic advisor for the company. So it was really interesting for me to get involved in the company really, really early on and see how we could shape what the company has become now 8 years later, right? So I was involved really early on. Back then, Drift domain name had 2 T's because we were too cheap to spend for the proper domain name.
For the .com, yeah.
Right, so we're scrappy back then. And then as Drift kind of evolved and changed, Dave and I have maintained this close relationship for a long time. We basically took a majority investment from Vista about 18 months ago, and it was just the right time for a different leader to come in. Again, the next stage of that growth. David transitioned to an executive chair. We spent a lot of time together. He gets to do what he's really good at. I like to think I'm doing what I get to be good at. And it's been, that's been our journey together. So I've been around the rim at Drift for, since the start, and, have maintained. And I think there's an interesting story about Drift, if we have a couple minutes. is
We have 18.
when Drift was started, we had great supporting VCs who really believed in this idea of backing the founders. So it was CRV and General Catalyst, and they invested in the team before we really had an idea. So we actually did 3 pivots in the business, one in HR, kind of one in annotation, before we came up with the idea that Drift would be the right thing and conversational marketing would be the right thing.
And you had investors on board, and they were excited about what you were building, and you hadn't even figured it out yet.
And we changed 3 times before we decided what we're going to go build, right? And that's,
wow.
I think, to some degree, the conviction of a guy like David Kensell, who said, we got great traction in the HR space, people were buying it, people were liking it. He said, no, not enough signal, scrap it, turn it off, let's go do something else. Like, that's courage. That's courage.
Wow.
And that's conviction.
That absolutely is. Yeah. I think what's interesting too is there's probably some founders here in the room. Like, how many of you are like thinking about or interested in advisory team or building a board around at some point the company that you're building or the startup? Really important stuff, right? Like, so what did you see? I'm curious. What did you see in Drift way back then that made you want to get on board and just become an advisor? Like, how did that conversation start? What did you see in them that attracted you to at least the team or the concept or the idea? What was that?
Well, I think it's the same thing that the early investors invested in, right? It's the quality of the people. Now, I was in the trenches with David for 6 years, so we kind of knew each other. We knew our strengths. We know how to push each other the right way, and that was really the compelling reason for me to get in and advise a company like that. With my experience, was just a remarkable, fun thing to go do. And I think ultimately it's what led me into the seat today.
Yeah.
And so when I got the call and got the tap to come join Drift, it was almost impossible to say no. Like, fate brought me here. Too much of the stars aligned. So let's do it.
Yeah. What can you say to the founders in the room that maybe are thinking about how do I find and build and nurture those types of relationships, which maybe down the road will translate to, director of the board or, again, rounding out that seat. How can they start those conversations and relationships, in a flooded market with so much SaaS out there? Like, what practically can founders be doing in the room maybe to start those relationships and build on those?
Yeah, I think the time to go build those relationships is it's an active process, that your own personal network that you have to build. So I think you need to think about what the board composition looks like and where are there gaps or white space and the expertise that you don't have. It's a lonely job, right? You guys all know it's a lonely job being the CEO. So you need that. You need those friendlies, and your advisors, whether they're purely advisors or they're external board members, can be those friendlies for you, right? To be in the room and be able to give you the advice and share their experience. Now, if you're a founder, like, the only thing limiting you to get access to these kinds of people is your effort and your desire. Because there's a whole lot of people out there who want to help you. You just got to reach out to them and make sure you make that match, that connection happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Is that helpful for some of you guys that put up your hand thinking about board and stuff like that? That's good. Okay, excellent. Now we're talking about fueling the new age of B2B go-to-market with AI and automation, which is it's kind of a fun topic. Automation and AI certainly both buzzwords today. But I love the slogan of Drift, which is everything starts with a conversation, right? So how is Drift helping businesses deliver the right conversation at the right time at scale?
Yep, great question. So if you think about what we do is we help our customers connect with their buyers, right? And really get that right time, right message, right conversation, right?
Yep.
And then across the full life cycle, right? And we do that with our platform having a solution set of sales, marketing, and service on top, all built on the platform of AI, right? So if you think about everything starts with a conversation, think about your professional life or your personal life, whether it's your relationships you have with your colleagues or with your partner, right? It all starts with that conversation, and that intimacy and that connection is really, really important, right? So at this point, we've now had we've initiated 3 billion conversations for our customers. We've generated over $22 billion worth of influence pipeline, and over $3 billion of revenue, like, attributed to our platform.
Wow.
Every one of those conversations feeds into the platform, feeds into the AI, and then kind of makes the system better as we go. So what we're trying to do is deliver massive personalization, like hyper-personalization, at a scale that we haven't seen before. And I think now with the emergence, in AI has been a part of what we've been doing from 2018. We've got 12 patents in AI. GPT has been an accelerant for that, like we've not seen before. And I think, we should talk about, if you're a founder, how do you think about the impact of AI more broadly?
Yes.
Because if it's not causing you to stay awake at night and think about the impact, it should, because it's going to dramatically change everything that we do in this room.
Yeah, exactly. You should not be getting any sleep right now, guys. You should be laying awake in bed at night worrying about but on a serious scale, you really should, at least, hopefully not at nighttime. We want you to rest well. Don't get us wrong, okay? We definitely want you to get your sleep. But you should be waking up a little bit early, thinking about your competition and thinking about what are the implications of this technology. So talk about, the biggest release that came out about Drift and, kind of GPT and generative AI. What kind of fueled those conversations? Who on the development team was the guy that woke up and was like, aha, this is it. Yeah. This is how we're going to integrate this kind of technology. And I'm wondering, is there like some kind of application here between like husbands and wives? Because, my wife likes to talk a lot. Can I use this to kind of filter those conversations?
So I have a good friend who used GPT to write a love letter to his wife.
I've done that too.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. You're right there. I love you.
Yeah.
She used it for me. Let's be honest. She did. She started that whole thing.
So you can't copyright that, right? Like no copywriting from GPT from there.
No.
So again, AI has been a significant part of what we've been doing from very early on the company. And one of our leadership principles is put the customer at the center of everything that we do, right? Yeah. So as we've been working with our 5,000 customers around the world and talking about the implications of AI, it became really obvious to us that GPT was an opportunity to accelerate a number of different things in their business. So we have our own proprietary AI, we call it conversational AI, and it integrates and connects, and we get a little bit of the best of. So what we do in our AI is make sure we're curating and guardrailing the content and making sure we have a persistent experience across that full life cycle. And then we bring in GPT to kind of augment that. So some things that we've done with GPT. In early March, we announced, AI-based replies. So if you're in a live chat with a customer, yep. The application, the AI will suggest the next round of responses for you. Now, it's not doing that going out to a large language model. We've trained the AI to look at your content, your website content, your marketing docs, your facts, like your user guides. And we're using GPT to basically go extract the best information out there to present it back to that client, to that prospect at that time.
At the prospect level.
At the prospect level.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. And then that was our first. And we're hell-bent to continue to release stuff. So every month we're releasing something new with GPT. Wow. So these auto replies, suggested replies were the first thing that we've done. Now we're doing auto topic discovery. So using, again, to find those topics, it all starts with a conversation. You don't need to infer intent when you can ask a customer a question and get the direct response and then feed that in. And we're creating this flywheel because if your SDRs are using it, your BDRs are using it, that's improving over time. And what it actually does is helps you train your team.
Yeah.
So, a new BDR will come on and suggested replies will help train that team, so shortening sales cycle.
Wow.
We then just launched last week topic discovery. So using AI to find, even further find, like, is it price, is it cost, is it investment, and like doing all that semantic to present the response back. And then we've also just released translation. So now I can have an English conversation on one side of whether it's a chatbot or a live chat, and then on the other side it's in 8 different languages. So now you can think about scaling your organization without having to have, because as you grow globally, sometimes it's hard to have in smaller markets a dedicated, sales team focused on that market. Let's use technology to make that easier.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm even thinking about like my kids. Like if I had something like that, my kids as parents, right, we're saying the same thing all the time to children. I think we should just like integrate that into some glasses, and then the questions come, it reads it, and then I can just like I can like audibly speak that to my kids over and over again because they have
be home by midnight.
Be home by midnight. No, you can't have that. No, that's too expensive.
Exactly.
No.
Ask your mother.
Ask your mother, exactly. No, that's great. And thinking about the integrations again, it's a flooded market. There's tons of chatbots out there. There's a lot of options, but founders, what should they be thinking about when even like implementing Drift, maybe into their marketing or in their sales cycles? How and where should they implement Drift?
So I'm going to jump forward a little bit and talk about recommendations for founders that are thinking about the impact of AI right now.
Let's do
right?
that.
So I'm looking at the clock
Yes.
ticking down, and I want to get this point out to you, right? So
Yes.
again, this is going to fundamentally change everything that we do within the SaaS business.
Yeah.
We're really focused right now on what it means for product features, product capabilities, but we also need to be looking at what does it mean from a regulatory perspective, what does it mean for our own marketing, how are we adopting this for developing code, like across the board, right? And GPT is not the end goal here. Like generative AI, I don't believe is the end goal.
Yep.
General artificial intelligence, like we've spent the last 40 years training ourselves how to talk to a computer.
Yep.
We're now at the verge of starting to train computers how to talk to us.
Wow.
Right? So if you're running a SaaS company, again, you need to think about your product roadmap. What are the things that you can basically not do in your product roadmap that you can, offload to a technology like GPT or general AI?
Yep.
So my recommendations are, there's a guy named Paul Reitzer, right, from the Marketing AI Institute, right?
Yep.
And he's got this great concept that I've co-opted, which is like the dynamic between the law of AI adoption, right? And it's going to create a dynamic. So people who know what's going on and people who don't know what's going on. So my strong recommendation to all the founders in this room is start doing something now. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to start doing something because pretty soon you're going to get to a point where you're going to be behind.
Yep.
So, a couple guiding principles is start with something that's low risk but high value, right? Do it as a skunk works to start with, right?
Yep.
And that's how it kind of started a little bit with us. And Elias Torres, who's another founder who is just, a force of nature when it comes to doing some of this stuff, hearing that from his customers. So again, like start with something you can do a skunk works, create a specialized team in the company that go across the company.
Yep.
But just start doing something,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So my daughter is a software engineer, and she's a couple years in her career. And my recommendation to her is start playing with GitHub Copilot, right? You need to understand how to do that. So again, this is a fundamental change to how we do business. And the earlier you start, the better position you'll be in. And it doesn't matter where you start, pick a spot.
Yeah. How would you describe this? Like, you've been through a couple different like major disruptors in markets. Heck, the internet, social media, change. People saying, "Oh, it's a fad. It's just going to go away." Like, how would you rank like generative AI and AI now in the market in terms of scale? Like, with relation to all these like big.
But let's not even go the cut. Like we got the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, the computer revolution. Like now we have the AI revolution, right? So it is gonna it's a big and important thing. And this is happening faster than I've ever seen in my career. So I've been around long enough to see, the first .com bust, the 2008 change. Like now this, it's absolutely phenomenal what we're seeing happen.
It's incredible. And I think it's important to say too, like have fun with it. Have fun with it. Don't look at, it's easy to look at some of this new technology and I know I'm speaking to a room of SaaS, so you're probably like, new shiny object, let me play around with it, hooray. But it can be a little bit overwhelming with all the, the changes in technology, especially within the last couple of years to kind of stay ahead of the curve. And maybe we're experiencing a little bit of fatigue. Like, oh, heck, now I got to learn this, and I got to learn that, and I got to learn this. So, maybe what are some ways that we can make it fun? Or you've been able to maintain this mindset of always evolving, always adapting, and not getting fatigued. Like you wake up every day and something hits the news and you're like, great. Do you ever have those moments where you're like, oh crap, like competitor
every day,
every day. Yeah.
We all tend to believe 100% of our competitors' press releases and only 50% of our own, right? Like, so I think that's a dynamic that we need to contend with. I think it's tricky, right? Because the bright new shiny object is not going to deliver the business value you see. So you've got to have a little bit of conviction to stay on the throttle for the things that you do long enough to see the output of. Like, so, it's hard to find the leading indicators are always elusive. The lagging indicators are always a little bit easier to determine. And they're the things that you care about, but you need to trust the signal early on. So fight the temptation to do the next great thing and have the courage of conviction to stay on what you know you need to do, for some period of time to see it through. But
Yep.
AI is not a bright, shiny object. It is
Yeah,
a secular change.
It is a huge game changer.
Right.
I'm curious, just to kind of like test the room, how many of you have already implemented AI into your SaaS? How many of you are exploring, maybe testing some ways that you can make that happen? Okay. Maybe for those of you that are exploring, if you have a question, because we're going to segue here into the Q&A, we've got about 3 minutes left.
This went amazingly fast.
It went way too fast. It's like that, sail GB.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on a boat, man.
Exactly.
Fortunately, we didn't fly off.
Yeah.
I'd love to open it up for Q&A because this is a great opportunity for you to ask Scott some questions. Anybody in the audience, let's get some questions. We maybe want to pass the mic around. We got a handheld. There we go, my man. You're the man. Not only do you rock a good beard, but you are extremely timely. Thank you.
Hey, Scott. How are you doing? So I'm curious, as CEO, what guidances or instructions or expectations you have of your own team internally to start using these tools? Do you provide a budget or guidance, training,
Yeah.
playtime?
Great question. So at CEO, you have an opportunity to set the tone, right? So what I've shared with you today is largely what I've shared with the executive team. I believe that we're doing a good job, clearly by launching a new product every month, on the implementation of our feature set with GPT and AI. But I don't think we're doing enough around the rest of the organization. So I'm an advocate in championing the fact that we need to be doing stuff in engineering, we need to be doing stuff kind of in our overall marketing department to use this and get proficient with it. So what I suggested you do is exactly what I'm doing now as the CEO. The other two things that I think we need to do is you need an AI code of conduct. Right, similar to what you do in a privacy statement. It's a little bit of an unknown world right now with that, and there's been a lot of new ideas. I made this comment that anything that's built with GPT now is not copyrightable, right? So that has huge implications for what you do with it, right? So we're working on an AI code of conduct, and we're also going to build, again, this cross-functional AI team in the company. It's too broad a topic to have any one team do it or any one person. So we're going to want to roll that out as kind of a task force. And just right now we're debating what level of individual that should be in the organization. Right? The natural tendency is concentrate that at the senior levels. My view is let's get that to senior level team, but the next level down in the organization to truly champion it.
That's great. Is that helpful? Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you. We got, okay. All right. Yeah, we'll pass it right up here in the center aisle.
I have one question. At Drift, I'm sure you have tons of conversation data, right? Do you plan to build your own model, or are you continue to rely on other people's model?
Yeah. So we're not in the model business, right? If you think about the ecosystem, the players, there's the model builders, the infrastructure guys, and the app folks. Kind of we're in the application space, right? So that's where we're going to spend all the time. So we're going to use the models that are available to us, and we're going to train those models on our data sets that are curated and understood by us and by our customer. One of the neat things about Drift is we're org one for our own technology, right? So everything that we do with our customers, we do on our own site, right? So to some degree, it's up to us to set the tone of how customers should use this, right? So we're that org one. Drift, we call it Drift on Drift.
Yep, that's great. Excellent. Yes, sir.
Hey, Scott, my name is Vlad. My question is, as a CEO, how would you resolve the situation when your team is resisting the AI changes? Meaning that when you educate them how it can benefit your business, your vision, but they are resisting, they don't want to embrace it. And my initial thought is maybe some of my team members just don't want to go to the next level with this. Like, what would be your take? How would you resolve this situation?
Yeah, I think the first and most important way is to take the fear and uncertainty out of it, right? So if you can start with these small experiments and get that done on, again, relatively low risk, high return initiatives, that's a great way to get a little bit of a groundswell of excitement and interest. Now, we don't have to twist too many arms to get people excited about AI and GPT inside of Drift. Like it's part of our DNA. So I didn't have to. That's not an uphill battle for me. What's the uphill battle is to get the rest of the organization to realize that there's things that they can do with this.
Thank you.
Excellent, great stuff. Good. We got time for one more. Uno más. Anybody? Nope. Excellent. All right. Hey, excellent. Good stuff. Well, Scott, this was great. Anything else that you feel like left on the table that we should address or leave with the room? Maybe some last thoughts.
Well, I think the main last thought is kind of this idea of this dichotomy of understanding what's going on versus not, the uneven distribution of knowledge at this point. So you should be thinking about that. Like, don't be left behind. Start doing something now, however small, however meager. This is not going away. This is going to change all of our businesses over time. Start doing something right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Go home this weekend. Start something right now.
Don't sleep. Stay up all
Write
night.
a love letter
Figure
to
it
your
out.
partner.
Exactly.
GPT-4.
They'll never know the difference.
Yeah.
Actually, they'll probably be surprised because you're probably not a good writer if you're using GPT.
My trick is I put a couple spelling mistakes in it, and then my wife doesn't figure it out that's going to be me.
Sprinkle some emojis too. That always helps. Good. Awesome. Well, thank you so
Awesome.
much,
Thank you
Scott.
so much.
This was great. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Awesome.